Welcome back. Today we'll be wrapping up our treatment of a raisin in the sun, and three main points wanted to go through. So here's a little outline for our video for today. Okay, so where we left off, the Mama had put the down payment on the house, and Lindner had come and tried to make them not move in. So we're going to find out now that Walter Lee has been hoodwinked and ripped off by Willie. And then I want to talk about as a result of this, his plan for getting money back, to go back to Lindner and say, I'll take your money for not moving in. And then finally, the symbolic role of the plant, which is something that we have not talked about yet, but it is a central symbol used by the author in this play. I couldn't help myself but put in a photo from this very early, the first film production of this play from 1961 with a very young Sidney Poitier. So he's here holding the check. So after rejecting Lindner's offer, the family has become united. They are preparing for their big move, and then the family has actually gotten a present from Mama. Okay, so everything seems to be coming together so nicely, and then they get her this present in the box that has a hat and gardening tools, and the gardening tools is going to be something that is relevant to that plant image I was just talking about. And the family they're actually like singing, on page 125, the family's all together and they're celebrating, and Walter's even singing, he's embracing his wife. I got wings, you got wings, all got children got wings. And then right on the heels of this, Bobo comes in with the bad news that Willie did not show up for their meeting, and he has swindled the two of them and taken all their money. And then on page 128 and 29, we find out that Walter has taken all of the money and given it to Willie. I mean, not the whole $10,000, but everything except the down payment. The money that was for Benita's schooling is also gone. And then to make matters worse, we find Walter has been reduced to the lowest form of degradation, which really makes the rest of the family ashamed of him. So his plan for getting money back was to go back to Lindner and say that the family will take the money he offered by refusing to move into the white neighborhood. So, I mean, if you look at the language here, I put this page on here, and actually I wanted to, before we go on, apologize for the bad quality of this, of these slides. I found a PDF of, the actual edition that we use in class, and but it's really small, and so in enlarging it, I've made it kind of fuzzy. So I apologize for the quality of that. But anyway, going back to the language we see here. Here is, a black man who is trying to maintain his dignity, and he is admitting to his family that he's going to go back and beg the white man. And so the language gets more exaggerated as we go on in this speech. So he's going to go back and say, "All right, Mr. Lindner, that's your neighborhood out there. You've got the right to keep it like you want." But then he's getting almost like a minstrel show here. "Oh yes, sir, boss. Yes, the great white father just giving us money," and the rest of his family is getting more and more disgusted, and they start talking about death. Death done come in this house. So Walter personally has really hit rock bottom, and the family is filled with despair. And so Walter goes out and finds a way of getting Lindner to come back. And then just as he's about to tell him he's going to accept the money that he offered, Mama, well, first of all, I should say, Ruth tells Travis, the boy Travis, that he should go downstairs when Lindner is there because she doesn't want him to see this humiliation. But Mama instead says on the top of page 147, no, Travis, you stay right here and you make him understand what you're doing, Walter Lee. Okay, so she's putting him right in front and say, if you're going to give in to this white neighborhood association and their veiled threats, then you got to do that in front of your son. And then this goes on for really like a page and a half before we get to this passage that I have here. Walter is kind of hemming and hawing and talking about how proud he is of his family. And then he really finds that he can stand up to Lindner. All right, so what I'm telling you is that we called you over here to tell you that we are very proud and that Travis, come here. Okay, so Mama's plan has worked, bringing Travis in front of this altercation has made Walter see that he cannot let his family down, and especially not his son. So he says, and we have decided to move into our house because my father, he earned it for us brick for brick. And he says, we don't want to make any trouble for nobody. And that's all we have to say. So he sends him away. And then what Mama says is that today that Walter has come into his manhood. That's the quote that is used for that. So, Walter has been seen as being incapable of making good choices. He has bad judgment. And then when things get really, really bad, he wants to cave in to the white man. But somehow, with the family all together, he is able to pull it together and stand up to Lindner and his offer. This rejuvenates the rest of the family, and the play ends with them hauling out boxes and stuff to the moving trucks that have just arrived. Now, we haven't talked at all until today about the role that Mama's plant plays in this play. And I was looking for some images for this part of the discussion. I mean, ordinarily in the classroom, I would spend some time trying to, sort of get a discussion going about if people noticed about the plant and how it fits in symbolically with the family. I mean, it is the plant that is in the window, and it's there all through the play. And I noticed that it was mentioned more than 10 times in the text. I went through and counted, and there was actually 14 mentions of the plant. But it's not really that prominently displayed until near the end. But it's very carefully prepared for in the play. So this image I have, it's kind of just, it's not very fancy or anything, but I noticed that in a lot of the online you can find images of a lot of posters for specific productions, and almost every single one of them includes a rendering of a plant of some kind. And so, I mean, it's no mistake that the author intends this to be, and it's not even a terribly sophisticated idea, but I mean, a plant needs nurturing and a good environment to grow in, and so I just think it's very effectively used. If we think about what a plant needs to thrive, sure, food and water, nurturing, and space, sunlight. I commented on some of your postings in the discussion board when you mentioned, that the family not just suffers a lot of poverty, but the lack of space there. It's so claustrophobic in that little apartment. And so the mentioning of the plant and what it needs to survive, by extension, it's like, yeah, the idea becomes, well, what does this family need to survive? There are several people, a family with branches, and they need space, they need light, they need sunlight, as well. Money is one of those things too. So I'm going to just finish this off by showing you some of the places. This is at the very beginning of the play. I mean, not the first page or anything, but it's if you remember at the beginning of the play, we have Travis and Walter and Ruth and getting ready very hectically at the beginning of the day. And it's only a little bit later that Mama comes out and makes her first appearance. And so what does she do when she comes out? Uh, she goes to the window, opens it, and brings in a feeble little plant growing doggedly in a small pot on the on the windowsill. Right, so very early on, and we don't really hear about it again, but not that much further on, we have a reference to it again. And very directly now, the script links the plant and the members of the family. So Mama says, she's looking at her plant and sprinkling a little water on it. They spirited, all right, my children. Got to admit they got spirit, Benny and Walter. Like this little old plant that ain't never had enough sunshine or nothing. And look at it. Okay, so we keep, I'd say she mentioned it a little bit further down. This plant is close to ever I got to having one. The idea of having a garden and a house. So the idea of, garden and house and sunshine, these are all elements that the author is trying to raise for, what the family needs, what kind of environment the family needs to thrive. Okay, now I don't want to overdo it with including here all the references, but we find it more prevalent near the end now. This scene is when they are getting packed up, to move, and this is before we find out that Walter has been swindled. So they're all happy, and so Mama is wanting to make sure she gets her plant ready. So, Mama, what are you doing? Says Benita. Fixing my plant so it won't get hurt. None on the way. Mama, you going to take that to the new house? That raggedy looking old thing? And Mama says, it expresses me. And by extension, it really expresses the entire family. Then when the family hits rock bottom, after Walter has lost all the money and has gone to go get Lindner to try to get money back from his offer, everyone else is in despair. And so Mama enters from her bedroom. She is lost, vague, trying to catch hold to make some sense of her former command of the world. But it eludes her. She goes to her plant, which has remained on the table, looks at it, picks it up, and takes it to the windowsill and sits it outside. And she stands and looks at it a long moment. All right, so it seems to be at the end. And then after Walter stands up to Mr. Lindner, and as Mama says, comes into his manhood, we have the family once again united, happy, ready to go to their new house, even though they face pretty serious danger here. But the very last thing that we have in it's not in the dialogue, but in the action, we have Mama goes back, and the last thing that she's getting is she's going to make sure that she gets her plant, and so it becomes again a powerful ending image. Okay, so that will do it for our treatment of A Raisin in the Sun. And this time, I'm not going to post another Q&A forum for this particular class. At first I was intending of maybe doing it for every class, but I think, for these longer works, if we usually spend 3 days on them, I think maybe I'll plan on having a forum for 2 of them, but give you a little break this time so you can start reading Slaughterhouse-Five. But I think that the topic of the plant is a good one to end with, and it could be a really potentially great idea for a research paper if you haven't decided on a topic yet. But it also could be a good question on an essay question on the exam. So that might be something to think about. Okay, so I'll next time be talking about Slaughterhouse-Five, so see you then.